Hello, Market Watcher. I'm David Ravel, and this, our first look at Wall Street for Thursday, March 25. Today, the two sides of stimulus, labor and profit. Then reports on both initial claims for unemployment and corporate profits. All that and our preview of the rest of today's corporate results, along with the latest news on the economy, coming right up. Well, it's day 2 of the Jerome and Janet Show, as Jerome Powell, Chairman of the Federal Reserve, and Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary, both testify today before the Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. Yesterday, you'll recall, this duo spoke before the House Committee on Financial Services. The topic today, as it was yesterday, is the progress of the 2020 stimulus package, otherwise known as the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Aid and Recovery Act. And the timing couldn't be better, because in just a few minutes we'll get two reports that will detail the two sides of these stimulus programs. On one side, wildly successful, but the other, not so. Today, we'll have the latest reports on corporate profits and the weekly report on initial claims for unemployment. So first to be announced will be the corporate profits. And here it's apparent that the stimulus program has been wildly successful. It may surprise you, as it certainly did me, that the latest reported quarter, it was the third quarter of 2020, reported an all-time record high in corporate profits. At $2.1 trillion in profits of Q3 of 2020, it surpassed the Q4 of the year before by $100 billion. And Q4 of 2019, the year before, was before the pandemic struck. That's quite a feat, don't you think? Profits in the midst of the pandemic actually exceeded the last quarter of profits before the pandemic even began. Now, the answer to this puzzle is, of course, that the funds earmarked especially for big business hit their target. And large corporations were able to take many of those funds directly to their bottom line. Remember, the CARES Act targeted fully $500 billion to these industry giants. So as I said, in just a few minutes, the latest report for Q4 2020 corporate profits will be released. Now, the Street expects that this report will build, although only slightly, upon the last level. That means the Street expectations are a 2% gain here, so that would be yet another record in corporate profits. A dramatic success for the CARES Act and for big business. On the other hand, it's not so successful for labor. Now, each Thursday, the U.S. Department of Labor reports on the number of initial claims for unemployment. These are workers who are newly out of work and are now applying for unemployment insurance. So this is not the total number of employees, which Janet Yellen yesterday estimated to be over 10 million. No, this is the number of people who just this week are being added to the unemployment rolls. And to put that number in perspective, excluding the 2008 and 9 recession, we've not seen initial claims exceed 400,000 per week since way back in 2003, 18 years ago. And for the last 5 years going into 2020, we had not seen initial claims exceed 250,000. But since March of last year, it's been an entirely different story. After peaking at 6.8 million claims for the week of March 28, 2020, a number that was so large that it overwhelmed all the unemployment offices across the country, we have not seen unemployment claims lower than 700,000 per week in the year since, a level nearly 3 times higher than where we were just before the pandemic struck. Now, each week for the past couple of months, there's been a group of optimistic analysts who have predicted that this will be the week we break below the 700,000 level. But each week, they and the rest of us have been disappointed as initial claims have come in well above that level. Hopefully, this will be the week that changes. But no matter how you slice this level of unemployment is a conspicuous failure of the entire stimulus program. Literally, it's the fly in the ointment. Because what this unemployment number is really saying is that businesses are not returning to normal. It's not back to work in America. Big corporations, by and large, are not using their stimulus checks to hire back those laid-off workers. Instead, those stimulus funds have been added to their bottom line, an accounting entry, which makes profits appear to be healthy, but in reality are not due to an increase in economic activity. Instead, it's just a one-time shot in the arm. So in the time we've been talking, those economic results have come in, and it's excellent news on the economy today. First up, those initial claims for unemployment did come in below 700,000 for the very first time since the pandemic struck. Initial claims, just 684,000. Next, good news for the overall economy. The third and final report on GDP growth came in at 4.3%, right on the top of all the estimates. But finally, a couple of oddities. The first, corporate profits actually declined 3.3% for the final quarter in 2020. That was a real surprise. Also, the level of overall prices in the economy also surprised. The GDP price index came in at a mere 1.9%. That's the principal measure of inflation, and it was half of the level of last time. We'll have a lot more to say about inflation in future shows, but this is well below Fed targets. Now in earnings today, better than expected results from Darden Restaurants. They're the home of Olive Garden and Longhorn Steakhouse. But not so positive results from computer game maker Skillz. And that's our look at Wall Street for Thursday, March 25. I'm David Revelle. Please join me in praying that our country may get back to work.